Welcome to the December 8th Board of Education meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is comments from the public. Dr. Davis, do we have any comments from the public?
We have no comments from the public this evening.
Okay. The next item is written communication. Dr. Davis, do we have any written communication?
We have no written communication this evening.
Okay, all right. Check those off. Okay, the next item, items for information. And the first item is the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for fiscal year 2024.
Yes, so we have two awards for the annual comprehensive financial report that both Rudy Mayo and Kendra Williams would like to share with the board.
Nice.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
So, as mentioned by Dr. Campbell, we have two awards that we're going to be presenting and discussing tonight. One from GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, and then the other from ASBO, Association of School Business Officials International. And so for both of these awards are highlighting our excellence in reporting for our annual comprehensive financial report related to the audit that was done for fiscal year 2024, for which Rudy takes the lead. It is indeed a team effort and a huge lift, but he spearheaded for fiscal year 2024, and we were able to obtain these two awards as a result of that. And so we don't take it lightly, even though some of them we've received 16 years over. We don't take it for just little plug. We don't take it lightly at all. We don't take it for granted. But we just try our very best to maintain high standards. So thank you to Rudy and the business office team and everyone else in the district that contributes to that effort. I'll just read a few of the words that came from GFOA regarding the award, and also from ASBO, that just highlights that we met the high standards of the program, which include demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate our financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. And then some words from ASBO related to their award. This award represents a significant achievement and reflects your commitment to transparency and high-quality financial reporting. So, once again, a huge thank you to Rudy, to the team, to the board for its oversight. Don't take it lightly. For GFOA, 23 school districts in Illinois. We have over 800 school districts in Illinois. 23 of them were awarded this award for fiscal year 24. And when it comes to the ASBO International Award, that's 63 school districts out of over 800. So
Wow.
Happy to be in that.
Yeah.
And Rudy, these awards that you can carry back. All right, so yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So where will these awards be kept?
Actually, if anybody wants to visit us in the business office, when you come in, we have a wall full of them. So
Oh, see, that's awesome.
come see us.
Yeah, and they're also listed in the front of our budget, correct?
Yes, also listed in the front of our budget, which is posted online.
Hey, I want to see it.
I'll start doing tours, Pat. Don't tempt me.
Yeah, I do, that budget. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm proud. All right. Okay, super. Nice way to start the meeting. Yep. Okay, the next item is structural changes report.
Yes. So a few years ago, ETHS engaged a number of changes to the school day to adjust for students returning to ETHS from the pandemic. And we went to a block schedule. We extended the passing period from 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm still hearing from ETHS alum how problematic that is. But nonetheless, we wanted to slow the day down and give students an opportunity to sort of catch their breath in between classes and have more time with teachers instead of having a hectic 9-period schedule. So what you have before you tonight is the report that provided an assessment of those changes over the last several years. And this is sort of maybe in tandem from the data that the board received last month. And I thought that it would be a good idea to bring this data to you because it really pretty much highlights some of the results of some of the changes that we've made in the district and in the school over time. So if I'm not leaving anything out, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Levy and Dr. Davis to walk the board through the structural changes report.
Thank you. Good evening. Oh, okay, turn it on. All right, hi. Okay, so I'm going to give you like a little bit of context because it's been a long time since we talked about it. I think maybe we first introduced that we were going to do an evaluation several years ago. So a little bit of context and then some like high-level findings from it. And then I can take any questions and just kind of like a little bit of our process throughout. So like Dr. Campbell said, when we came back from when we returned to in-person instruction and Dr. Campbell came out and said we were like looking to rehumanize the educational experience, create a more supportive environment, increase student and staff well-being, and create equity-driven systemic change. And so some of those changes that he just talked about, the block schedule, the longer passing periods were implemented and tasked my department with kind of an evaluation over time. So we created a 3-year evaluation plan. And so what I'm going to talk about is this report is like kind of the data we collected over the 3 years, and then kind of trying to capture, every year, Dr. Campbell and the administration team collects data, looks at data, reviews data, makes adjustments based on that data throughout the year. So this is kind of a big, high-level attempt to capture like some of the big changes throughout as it's a work in progress. And so this report was through the school year 2024, but last year as we were writing it and analyzing the data, we were also doing last year's data. So there are places where we were able to incorporate the school year 25 data, like the classroom observations. And then there's some places in here where like the surveys that once we finished this report, we looked at the surveys. And so I've kind of added into my presentation here. Some of it I shared with you last month with the year in review, so that it shouldn't be too new. Okay. So what we did, data collection, we had staff surveys, we did student surveys, on well-being and belonging, and feedback around the structural changes from staff and students. We have a student emotion, regulation, and coping skills study with activities and surveys we've been doing with Dr. Chris Rozek from Washington University for several years now. Our classroom observations, and then reviewing attendance and discipline data. So the way we organized the report, we thought about it in 3, as we call, domains. And everyone starts with SEL because the whole intent was to look at the experience, the social emotional experience, the well-being. And so every domain is like SEL is the focus. So we looked at well-being support, and within that, that's looking at attitudes about self, others, and tasks, sense of belonging and connection, in-school related stress, and participation in school activities were some of the things we were looking at. In behavioral, we're looking at attendance, tardies, discipline referrals, social probations, and suspensions. And then under the academic, we were looking at the classroom experience and classroom engagement, and not so much the academic change in academics, but these are the things we were focusing on because this was when the big thing about coming back was looking about the experience and kind of rehumanizing that environment. And so this we felt got to that. So some high level from each domain. So the first one under student mental health and well-being, here's where I'm adding some of the data from last year. So last year we saw, and we talked about this last month, 71% of students reported feeling a sense of belonging, and those rates are higher across all student groups. And this is higher compared to school year 24, which was 63%, and school year 2022, which is like the first year we started to collect this data for this report. And then last year in our surveys, 80% of students reported that their teachers treat them with respect, and 71% feel their teachers care about them as a person. Again, these are 2 measures that are higher than the year before and the previous years. And then throughout this time, and from the beginning when we first started, when we were in lockdown, actually, we started collecting some data on depression markers. We have it through our surveys we ask, and then we also triangulate that with Dr. Rozak's surveys, and it all has been lining up every year. So what we're seeing is last year, the rate of students who identified with the major depression markers was around 19%, which is a drop from 15% in May 2020. And so research shows there's a correlation between students who feel their teachers care about them and their lives outside of school and lower depression levels, and also they're highly motivated. And then for context, research shows pre-pandemic, kind of an average depression for students in schools was around 11-12%. So to get back down to that is a really big thing to keep track of, and to see this is some really positive change that we're seeing over these years. So domain 2, we some highlights from that where we looked at attendance and discipline. So we look at chronic absenteeism, and while it decreased a little bit to 21% in 2024 from a couple years before, we did see that it went up last year, and so it's still a concern. We're still keeping an eye on attendance, absenteeism, truancy. We saw that truancy was up in 22, had dipped the other year in school year 24 to 9%, and then last year in the school year 25 was up again. So we were talking about this last month of the year in review, the attendance, and keeping an eye on how that kind of has ticked up. We saw discipline referrals increase between school year 2022 and 24. And then some of the highlights that I had in here, over time, over these years, ETHS has implemented attendance supports, restorative practices, and in 24, they implemented the bell-to-bell, no cell phone policy to kind of address some of these different data points. And so then the last domain is around the classroom experience, and I have two different types of data that we collect. And it's myself and Dr. Liz Harder, Senior Research Associate, we're the ones that go in and do a lot of the classroom observations. And so the observations in the survey data, they kind of the themes, the constructs overlap, they triangulate, and so what we see in one should and does kind of align with what we see in some others. So the surveys looked at some constructs, and one of them is classroom community, and classroom community questions out of that are students, 70% saying they feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and opinions in class, which was up from the school year 24. And so these survey results are also from last year in school year 25. Student voice, where students feel that their ideas are being taken seriously, that was up 70% last year compared to prior years. Supportive teaching, 73% of students say their teachers regularly check in to make sure they understand the class material. Again, all of these measures are up last year compared to prior years, which is a positive trend up. Another construct that we look at in our surveys is a well-organized class. And questions from this, 75% of students agree it's clear that what they are supposed to be doing in class, they know what they're supposed to be doing in class. And then meaningful work, where 2/3, 69%, they feel what they learn in class is connected to real life. So that's up from 56% in 2024. This will see kind of overlap with our observation constructs. And then the last one is teacher caring, which also you see in the surveys. Data points, so 68% feel their teachers care about their life outside of school, and that's up from 59% in 2024. Now, in addition to the surveys, we also have classroom observations, and we started conducting these. We have them from the last 2 years, and so the way we conduct our observations, these are not teacher evaluations, the way these are done is we randomly select classes, teachers in classes across all the departments. We look at a random selection across all the different times of the day, the different blocks, and then we split them across the different days of the week. And so we take this, the tool we've used, which we've used for several years before, is a class tool, and it's on a scale of 1 to 7, where 1 and 2 is low, 3, 4, and 5 is mid, and 6 and 7 is high. We score it across these different constructs that I'll point out, and then we aggregate it across all of the observation. So our goal is to see as many as we can, and then aggregate it to get sort of a big picture view of how students are experiencing their classes across the school throughout the day, throughout the year. And our observations, we start them in November, and we do them through about March, like maybe a week before spring break. And so that's our window that we've been doing them in. And so the constructs we look at positive climate, and that's looking at the emotional connection, whether or not there's respect and enjoyment demonstrated between teachers and students. Regard for adolescent perspectives means the extent that teachers, they meet their adolescents' needs for autonomy, an active role in class, and meaningful interactions with themselves and with their peers. There's analysis and inquiry, which is a degree which students engage in higher order thinking skills. This includes metacognition in this domain. Instructional dialogue is a purposeful use of content-focused cumulative discussion between teachers and teachers and students. And the key term here is cumulative. It's not just a discussion, but it's an ongoing back and forth to deepen understanding and knowledge. And then the last one is student engagement, and we're looking at overall active engagement, not just a passive engagement. And so just a high-level chart we have over the 2 years, 24, and then last year in school year 25, we see that ETHS is stronger in the areas of positive climate and student engagement. And when we look at these numbers, kind of how I said 1 and 2 is on a low end, and 6 and 7 are on a high. Anything that's kind of like on a 5, so 5 is like mid-high, 5 and higher is really strong. And so we see areas of opportunity in analysis and inquiry and instructional dialogue. In the report, when we looked at this a little deeper, we found there were differences in classes, and this is through exploratory analysis of the data, in classes that had 45% or more students, Black and Latino students, and classes with less than 45% had some statistically significant differences in instructional dialogue and analysis and inquiry. And one more thing to point on this chart here, the little asterisks under the 2024-25 school year for instructional dialogue, ID, and the AI analysis and inquiry, that means there is a statistically significant difference from the year before. So that increase from 3.7 to 4.2 and from 3.0 to 3.8 is a significant increase. It's not just the way like 4.3 to 4.5, that wasn't significant. That's an increase, but it wasn't like as big a statistically significant increase as these other two are. So it's kind of like the big picture, kind of high level from the report. So that report was done, those 3 years are done, but we're not done. So we're continuing to collect the data that we have identified as really relevant and important to keep looking at over patterns and trends over time, which are the classroom observations and the student survey data. And we have like a rich, we're getting a nice trend of survey data, so we're going to continue with that. To see if there's any more change over time, knowing that every year, as you look at data, Dr. Campbell and your team, and you make adjustments as needed to see how this is like supporting and changing and improving things over time. I think that's all my highlights.
I have a couple things.
Okay.
Of all the reports that we bring to the board, this report is the one that we spend the greatest amount of time on. We did a leadership retreat, which we unpacked this information. We did a 2-day department chair retreat where we looked specifically at instructional dialogue and analysis and inquiry. We also, as a professional development team, we have an Ecology of Professional Learning team, and we took this data and we integrated it into our professional learning this year, which is all around instruction. We have an instructional framework, and we're using the Collaborative Action Research for Equity model. And we've transformed all of our professional learning opportunities, whether they're action groups around on Mondays that are department specific. We also have cross-departmental opportunities, but everything is grounded really in in increasing instructional dialogue and analysis and inquiry. And right now, we're looking specifically at chunking and processing information in a classroom and the frequency at which we do that, and providing discrete instructional strategies and an opportunity for teachers to reflect on that up against a focal student whom they've selected. So we're getting it out of the teacher planning mode and more into like, how is this received by kids? And then how is this received by focal students, and using that to inform practice this year and ongoing. That's just an example of how, and also, this was part of the Opening Institute Day report as well. Dr. McNeil and I pulled data from this when we spoke to the faculty. I think we're open for questions.
Yeah.
Okay, questions, board? I remember some of the earlier iterations of this when we were trying to figure out how to ask the questions so that the students really understood what we mean by, do they feel like they belong? Do they feel like that teachers care? And I think we've really worked hard, and this really indicates to me that we've done a really good job of communicating that in a way that we can pull this and look at this data and make it meaningful and use this data to make changes in what we do with students.
Yeah, we, as a student, the way we ask questions around sense of belonging and connection, feeling confident. A couple of years ago, Dr. Campbell asked, how can we get to a culture of care? So now, for the last 2 years, we have a different open-ended question. I think the first year is in this report where we ask students, like, what does a teacher do that makes you feel like you matter to them?
Yeah.
And we had over 2,000 students respond. And so those themes that reported are very robust, and they came up over and over. It was really just like super encouraging.
Yeah, that's
Last
good.
year's was, I forgot, but it was also around like, how do you feel valued? So,
That's good. And I'm sure it's also valuable for teachers to see that, get some ideas.
yeah.
Okay, Pat?
Thanks. Well, first, I just want to say out loud that thank you for this report, but also just acknowledge that this isn't, not every district does this, like, goes into this level of detail in terms of the questions, the longevity of the research, the action that's taken as a result of the data. So I just think that's really something to acknowledge, and thank you both and your teams and everyone for thinking about this and doing this work, because it really matters. And you know, Pete's description of how a lot of this was used was kind of one of my questions. So you check that one off, that you really are using this in a robust way across the school. And I think that's really terrific. I do have a couple questions in terms of, I mean, I think we've seen a lot of growth, and we came out of a rough time, and this started at when the kids were coming back from COVID. But I wonder, what do we know about, I'm just going to use the 1/3, because 2/3 was a pretty common number of 2/3 of kids feel good about this or that. What do we know about the kids who are answering the questions in the less positive way?
The majority of them are saying somewhat. They're in that neutral, so it's on usually a 5-point scale, like agree, strongly agree, somewhat, and then disagree, strongly disagree. And so that percent that usually is in the strongly disagree is below 10%, 7%, 5%. But the majority, about 1/3 of them, most of them are in that somewhat neutral range. So what I report is the students that feel like agree, strongly agree, like, yes, I feel this.
Yeah.
And not just sort of in the middle.
And are we able to, because even though a lot of them are in that weird neutral middle, there are kids who are answering, no, this is bad, or no, I disagree with this. So are we able to really pinpoint some, I mean, I know it's data and it's not always even known who responded the way they did, but are we able to really target interventions are we able to understand from all the work that you're putting together, some themes that can be actionable? And specific interventions that can be employed to really support the kids who aren't at the higher end of, yeah, things are great, or the Midland even, who are just kind of like, I don't know what to say, I'm going to put 3,
Yeah.
that's a survey.
And we're going back and looking at that deeper dive like that. We have looked at it, and so students who maybe say they don't agree, they're not necessarily saying that across all of them. It may maybe 1 or 2. It's like a range of students across it, so that's hard to find some clear patterns across. But we have, and we're starting to share with some ideas to go back and dig around to do a little deeper dive in some different ways, and so see what we
Yeah.
can.
Okay, well, I mean, it's interesting when you start to pull it apart that there's, maybe it's even better in some ways. The data is a little better than even it comes out when you just look at it numerically. My other question is around the staff, SEL and well-being. And I'm just curious, what do we know about the staff who aren't as positive in their responses? I'm wondering, is there a racial component to that? Is it disaggregated? Do you know that people who are unhappy maybe fit, maybe are more faculty of black and brown faculty? Or is there some, I guess, what do we know about? Because some of those numbers were a little rougher.
So no, those are all anonymous, so we do not have that. We do not ask staff to identify, so we don't have any data disaggregated. I do know that the staff surveys were the hardest to analyze, because we would do a fall and a spring. In the fall, we would have more response, and then maybe half of that in the spring. And it's really hard to make comparisons when you only have 100 people take a survey in the spring and you had 250 from the year before. And so that's why that's probably more limited, because it was harder to get and feel like we're making analyses that could be generalizable. They're not generalizable, so it just made that piece a little bit more challenging. The best way right now that we have to look at staff feedback is through the 5 essential surveys and some of the patterns in there.
And Pete was talking about professional development and administrators and department chairs. Are you able to look at sort of all the teacher pieces too? And is that, I guess what I'm wondering is, with the numbers being, I mean, they weren't horrible, but they were definitely not as robust, let's say, or positive as some of the student responses. And I'm just wondering if there's interventions or professional development or just conversations at the staff level, supported conversations to kind of help maybe unearth what's going on, and most importantly, do something about it if people are having a difficult time.
I mean, I know we've done staff talking circles in the past as a mechanism for that. The other thing we've done this year is we have these action group, these AGs. We heard from teachers and staff that they wanted time to talk and time to collaborate, and teachers around like students, right? Around their classes. So we built that in so they could have more time to discuss, to talk. We gave them a framework in which to do it so it would be productive. And we've measured that ongoing. We have a survey that goes out every time we do our professional learning now, so we've been able to track that. We're gonna have a more comprehensive professional learning survey, but one of the things that they said was we're feeling isolated, a great deal of isolation coming off of COVID the last few years. People really like to hunker down in their rooms. They don't socialize as much. So, it's nice to have a standing time, even though it's instructional, right, which we think is great.
Yeah.
But a time to like get together and collaborate has also been helpful, I think, to that. It's not perfect, but it's something we didn't have in the past. It's responsive.
That's good. Okay, thank you. Those were all my questions. Thank you.
Great. Other questions, Leah?
Hi. Okay, I haven't really formulated my question. I'm kind of crafting this as I talk. So I think what I want to emphasize is so excellent about this is that there's often reports about the typical things, attendance rates, grades, test scores. So I think the fact that some changes were made in real time, in response to returning from COVID, and then to really study that and what that really has meant for the school is really great. I appreciate the transparency of this report in that it really highlights the improvements in the overall student well-being, but is really honest about the persistent racial disparities. And because I think that that's important. And along that line, it seems like there's a lot here that then it's not data for data's sake. It's data we can use to see how we're doing, what we're going to do next, what works, what doesn't, what are our areas of opportunity, areas of growth. And along those lines, what would be like the next step? What can we do with this data to now get at, so why are there the persistent racial disparities? Like, what are we doing with that piece of what we found out?
Yeah, and then you can fill it in. I think one of the key pieces is that we've taken the collaborative action research model, the CARE model, where teachers pick focal students, right, based on the protocol, and then plan for that student, how's that student going to receive, and then debrief that. That's a way in, and that way in is profound because we actually had data for the first time that supported the actual need to do it. And when I say the need to do it, I don't mean, when you do standardized test scores, you can explain a standardized test score away, right? You can't explain away a series of classroom observations that demonstrate this difference, particularly when Carrie's team says, oh, we didn't look at advanced placement classes at all, right? Because, the go-to when you see those disparities is, oh, you probably went to like a class that's overwhelmingly white and you saw this. No. That wasn't what we did. And conversely, didn't go to support classes either. So what we were looking at is like the academic, the pathway to honors classes, those kind of places that are, should be, right, a sort of uniform experience, at least in terms of like your analysis and inquiry and that kind of thing. But yet we saw that based on the percentage of non-white kids. If it ticked above, was it 45%? If it was above 45%, you saw this shift. Now, the good news is there's analysis and inquiry and there's all these things are happening. They're just not happening with a great frequency. And if you look at the classes that were majority white, those classes also weren't doing it at a great level. So there's a land of opportunity here, interest convergence to improve instruction across the board. You overlay the CARE model with it and you say, okay, but let's pay attention to how our black and brown students that you're gonna select and you're gonna focus on, you're gonna learn all this below the line information about, and then you're gonna plan your lessons with them in mind, and then you're gonna talk about it in groups. That's a shift. That's a huge shift. Now, are we doing CARE model this year where we're going into each other's classrooms? No, we're not doing that yet. We're doing it solely for planning and then reporting, with the hope that maybe we get to the point where we can bring people in and out of classrooms, teachers in and out of their colleagues' classrooms. But in terms of laying the framework, absolutely. And that is part and parcel because this data says, we looked at your classrooms. And I actually did a presentation where I said, you got your grade distributions. Oh, you can explain away a grade distribution because you can say everybody gets an A. Literally, I mean, you could argue that. You can argue that grades are inflated. You can do, we don't have a uniform grading system. You can explain away the grade disparities. You can explain away test scores. What you can't explain away is when Carrie and her team go in and they see this in our own classrooms. That's the profound impact on each and every person in this building. And she's building more capacity. I mean, you're seeing more classes, right, this year? You've
Yeah.
expanded that?
We are. Yeah, we have our schedule laid out. We're looking for at least 50% more classes and observations than we have in the past. And so the other part of your question is Dr. Hart and I think of data as a conversation, right? So we bring this data, it's meant to be useful, hopefully it's useful, and then you can make some changes, which every year administration does, and then we go back and continue to collect the data, like, is it helping? Because it's not just one thing that's gonna make things changes, it's like a bunch of things, and so collectively, over time, are all these things, like, helping kind of shift the needle, so to speak.
Yeah. And I'll add that, just as a headline, not a headline, but whatever, one of the reasons why we did this at the time was because there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as you know, about the block. Like, will it
Yeah.
work? How are we gonna evaluate? All of the things. And as principal, it was like, Lord, have mercy. So we needed to put some sort of a system together. So it looks like we'll be able to keep the block, because the block schedule had been a debate in the district for like 30 years.
Yeah.
And it took
It's a
a
lot of
pandemic
discussion.
for us to move to a block schedule. So, but now that we've done that, and the data looks at the way that it does, we can take a real deep dive into instruction, and Dr. McNeil can put together whatever kind of professional development plan she wants to and needs to, based on the instructional needs that this highlights, as well as the other issues that she's addressing with the MTSS process.
And you have to give it time
Yeah.
to work. Because you can't like start something and then change it in a
That's right,
couple
Pat.
years.
I mean, we've been
That drives
looking at
me nuts.
sense of belonging data, I bring it to you in the year in review for many years. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of, even before the pandemic, kind of
Yeah.
stagnated. And to see that it's, this shift up from last year, we're going to keep looking at it and hope that shift up is like staying up there. With all of the social emotional climate, work that's being done.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I think Liz, and then we'll go to Mara.
Hi. So I have a couple questions. So I'm looking in the wonderful memo you gave us, and you have the data points in bar charts, all the data points for the domains 1 and 2. And tell me if I am imagining things, but when I look at the racial disparities between the experiences and the races of the students, it looks like there's less of a disparity this time than what I've seen in the past. Has it shrunk a little? Or is it just a trick of the eye with the way the charts are made?
Which one are you asking about?
Like teacher caring and classroom
Yeah.
community and stuff like that, like it looked like it narrowed.
Yes, I think everything is like, from last year's data, it's across all the student groups, they've shifted up. We still see disparities. Our students who identify as white and Asian tend to indicate a sense of belonging or connection that's above average, and students who identify as Black and Latinx below the average, but I do think there's been a shift. There's a couple of places where there are really no differences, and I've seen that for a couple of years, but I don't know if that's like across all of it. But
Okay.
yes, there's some patterns.
And then I was just also wondering about, I love this domain 3 with the classroom observations. This brought me so much joy because the data is so fascinating. I loved looking at it, and I was curious, who are our observers? Like, who's doing the observing?
It's me and Dr. Liz Harder, our senior research associate.
And talk
we-
about your training, Carrie,
Yeah, talk
because you
about
didn't just do this.
So we use this tool, it's called CLASS, and it's out of University of Virginia. I used it many, many years ago when we did the restructured freshman year, and we did observations around that. And we did, it's pretty intense 2-day training, and then you have to pass a series of like tests based on observations and how you score it. So we did that, and then every year when Liz and I, when we start observations, so we've already done it, we go in and we do several together to check our inter-rater reliability. And once we feel like, okay, we're back on track, after several months off, then we start doing them on our own. So we've already gone through this year and done our inter-rater reliability checks. Feels like, okay, we've had conversations and kind of reviewed how we look at the different things and what's considered medium, high, or low. And then we just divvy it up and kind of split it between mid-November and mid-March. and just make them, we already have our schedules, for example, same process, looking at how many days of the week are we capturing? Are we trying to get equal distribution across all the different departments, all the different blocks? If you got block 2, you get same number on Wednesdays as Fridays, making sure we get block 8 on Friday, like that is our process to make sure. And then we randomly select the teachers. For the past few years, we're trying to make sure we didn't do the same teacher like 2 years in a row. And this year, we just threw everyone back in the pot and just did a random selection again, so.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I feel very strongly, and the data supports it, that all of these support initiatives, from the SEL to the blocks to the cell phone policy and restorative justice, like all of this, I really believe it has such a profound effect on our students. I mean, it's such a massive effort, like what Pat was saying, that we care that much, that we're really trying to hit it from every angle. And I do believe that these things really matter to our students. So I just want to say well done and keep it up.
I mean, Dr. McNeil's tightened the cell phone policy this year, so collecting this data to see if there's any changes next year is also important as we look and see as things are tightened or adjusted, just to keep that process.
Great, great. Thank you.
Thank you for explaining that observation process, though. That's amazing that you took the time and learned really how to go and observe. So that's really great.
Thanks. I
Just
mean,
wanna commend you.
and whenever I come to teachers, we send them the rubric. Everyone, I'm happy to explain it, but I kind of explain it, give them, everyone a copy of what we're looking at and we're scoring. They have a link if they want to look at it. And then we just make sure we're not, like, if Dr. Harder saw someone last year, then I don't let her go, I'll go. We just
Yeah.
kind of make sure we're not, we're mixing it all up.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
Trying to be as transparent and random and equal about it.
There's also an anonymous feature, right, Carrie?
It's anonymous. No one knows. We have a coding system on when we like track the data that no one can look at it and say, I know who that is. And so no teacher can look at this data and say, that's me. No one can do that.
Yeah, good.
So.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I am always in awe of your work and feel that we are so lucky to have such a rigorous research component. So thank you for that. So I'm thinking about a couple things. One is the theory of action that we may have around leadership and staff, how we're cultivating their capacity for sustainability. Because I love that we are looking at what our students say and what we observe in the classrooms, but I was thinking about what staff said regarding their own PD and kind of what they need. So that's one thing that's swimming around in my head, is how can we help them help our kids? And so many teachers are brilliant in their own right, but definitely are not trained in the learning sciences, and that's why like the Chungchu review or the things you're doing are really critical. And so I just keep thinking about how we can do more of that, or we can support that. And then my other thought was just around, I'm thinking a lot about the protective factors that kids need, and this is going to seem probably trivial, but I was just thinking about the no-cell bell-to-bell and how you have that in the domain of behavior and policy. And there's something about it that seems to me to be very much about well-being. And I'm just thinking about how, while we're looking at rules and what not to do, but there's something so much more powerful about that move and the well-being that's created because of it. And so I just am thinking about how we can maybe shift that dialogue. I mean, just, I don't know exactly what the end point is in what I'm saying, but it's kind of swimming around in my mind.
I think it falls in two areas. You see it in the student engagement. So you see the difference in student engagement from the like 23 to 24 in the observations, because they're putting them away. So that, I see a difference there. But then also it's with the tardies and the in-hall in Hall, truants or walkers. And so seeing that go down too is where you also like trying to see that, so.
Yeah.
But maybe articulating it a little different. I
Yeah,
understand
just
what
that
you're
it's so
saying.
positive. It's such a
Right.
beautiful effect that we are seeing from our kids who really are being freed up to engage in engagement. And so there's something about it that I want to move it out of this behavioral kind of, penalty or something and talk about it in its extractive move allows for all this additive stuff to happen. And so there's something about that I want to recategorize, but that's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for this. This is a great report. It's very, pretty advanced, I'd say.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
Short and sweet.
I'll stay here for the next one.
You can stay here for the next one, okay. And the next one is the
No, I
first
know.
reading for Press Policy 120.
Yes, the Policy Committee met on November 19th to review the most recent policy update, which is Press 120. This is a first reading. The final reading will be next board meeting. And you see the committee recommendations are there as well as the policies.
Right.
And we do have one 8:30 visitors to and conduct on school property, which is currently under attorney review, and I'll have their recommendation next time.
Next meeting, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and you can stay there and respond to our next
Sure.
item on FOIAs. We have three, I believe.
Yes, we have three. We have one from Bennington on 11/25, and then two from the same person on 11/26, and the responses are in your packet.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, so moving right along, we're at board committee reports. And so I have one, but I don't have it written up yet, so I'll have it for the January meeting. But I went to a meeting of the Evanston Cradle to Career, and basically, that meeting consisted of the participants talking about the erosion of public funds. That's really kind of like the big conversations. All these agencies are trying to figure out how to survive in this era, and seeing the benefits go away, and inflation continues to be escalating. So everyone's dealing with some of the same issues that we are. But, when this is all they have to rely upon, these are really hard discussions. So, and then just really how this has been affecting us, what to expect ahead, and they're just trying to do some brainstorming around solutions, offering workshops and how to navigate some of the resources and pull things together. So, but I'll have this ready for you. I need to clean that up a little bit. Okay? And I think Pat,
Yeah. So the November EdRed meeting was right before our November board meeting. So I have it written up, but it also will be in the January. The write-up is in January, but the report is this month. But anyway, so there were several different presentations, one by a superintendent in DuPage County talking about a new English language learning consortium, and our district and other districts can be a part of it. So we can contact that superintendent for more information. Senator Ed Lee Allen presented on some of the things that were passed during veto session, and the one that was most interesting to us relates to legislation regarding immigration and creating protective zones at daycares, hospitals, courthouses, and public higher education, institutions. Then Forensic, our law firm, and EdRed did some legislative updates as well. One area that they're working on together is this issue of student safety to and from school and outside of school, when they're even at school activities but are not within the building. A couple of bills that they talked about, one was related to Open Meetings Act, just basically that you can have a state rep or a regional rep at your closed session self-evaluations. But the FOIA one was rather interesting. So it's part of the same bill. So one of the changes that they voted on was that you have a right, we have a right, to verify that the requester is a person. And I thought that was really interesting, especially given some of the things that we've seen with some of these quote-unquote news sources and so forth. So it's also not a requirement that districts open electronic files or hyperlinks. So if someone sends a file, we don't have to look at it in order to respond to the FOIA. And I thought, again, that's interesting because given everything we know about cybersecurity. And that junk mail is not considered a public record. So when, Pete does these, or the FOIA officer does the search for an email that has Pat Savage Williams' name in it, right? If there are a bunch in the junk mail, that doesn't have to be included. I think these are really, they're small but really powerful things. So Ed read the priorities for this year. They talked about, at the end, world language graduation requirement. Kind of already have that here. So the mandated categorical funding issue, particularly as relate to tiered 3 and 4 schools. So not as much on us, but still. And then the big one that I think we all have been thinking about is law enforcement procedures related not just to campus, but off campus. And I mentioned that a minute ago. So it was a pretty informative meeting.
Thank you. All right, any other committee reports? Okay, so we'll keep moving, and we're at the student board report. Eva.
Okay, hello everybody. I hope you had a restful fall break. Since the last board meeting, there have been a couple of significant events here at ETHS that I wanted to highlight. Empty Bowl, which is our school's largest fundraiser, took place last Friday, and that raised over $6,000 for the community fridges. It was a great event. There was free soup for anyone who attended, as well as hundreds of beautiful ceramic pieces up for purchase. The Chinese classes took a week-long trip to Shanghai. It was a great experience for those students to be immersed in their language and really see the culture they've been studying. The Scholastic Bowl team found a sponsor, which has been an ongoing issue. They had been unable to compete or practice, but now they have Miss Sarah Dreller and will be competing again. The principal's office unveiled Spirit Week this week. Today was pajama day.
Oh, wow.
Dr. McNeil had her pajamas on today.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, those are pajamas?
Finals are next week, and teachers are spending this week as a review week, so no new material. Students are focusing on preparing for finals.
Yes.
And then, as a student union, we will have finished sorting data from the Student Voice Forum by the end of winter break, and we will form committees to target specific issues after break. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Dr. Campbell.
All right. Good evening. I'll start by saying I made the board aware today that we are sort of at the end of what we could manage, receiving no money from Cook County for the year. We have gone through July, August, September, October, November, now the second week in December, with no money from Cook County. Wow. And so this is it, we're at the end. So I'll be working with the board on whatever advocacy is necessary and working with the county so that not only is ETHS, but other school districts that heavily rely upon property tax dollars, that we are in this situation again. And so you'll be hearing more about that. And you all know how frustrated and
Yeah.
angry I
Yeah.
am about that.
Yeah.
So hopefully, Kendra says maybe we'll get a disbursement by Friday. We got our fingers crossed. But if that doesn't happen, we'll be coming back to the board because we're going to have to make some other moves, right? All right, so that's bad news.
Yeah,
But as we gather for this last financial board, see the money's on my mind. As we gather for the final board meeting of this calendar year, I want to acknowledge the many ways our community have felt. It's been a challenging year. Everybody's dealing with navigating uncertainty, difficult moments, and some real pain for folks. And yet, through it all, our students and staff and families have shown remarkable resilience. And the way this community continues to show up for one another remains one of ETHS's greatest strengths. This year has also reminded us that our learning isn't confined to classrooms. Our students are growing not only academically, but as people who understand what it means to lead with integrity, to engage in complexity, and to stand up for what is right. So I have no doubt that they will carry these lessons with them as they move forward into the world. As Eva mentioned, with finals beginning next week, I want to wish our students focus and confidence as they finish the semester. And thank you for the staff and the families for continued their support of students throughout the semester. And I'm proud of this town and the work we've done together and the way we move forward as a community. And I'm hoping that the upcoming break, it looks like we're getting a lot of snow, will offer a renewal for everyone. And we look forward to starting January strong. I can't believe that 2025 is just about over and we're starting a new year.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? What's the financial impact of
Which
not
part?
receiving the Cook County impact?
So the financial impact is significant, and Kendra can help me here. We are pretty much relying on all of our, what we call our savings, our fund balance, to run the school. And we've done that for a number of years. Last week, Kendra had to go to the bank and, break investments for us to be able to have cash and have cash flow. Am I correct at that, Kendra?
Yeah, we had to liquidate some investments.
Yes. And so we rely upon those investments and the interest of those investments as a part of our budget.
Correct.
And so there is a real financial impact. We went to the county and said, hey, why don't we go for a zero-interest loan? And the county told us our credit was too good. And we had to have
A
rate.
credit rating that either met or was below theirs. So although the error is not the. So
Cook
basically,
County.
yeah, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
So because our credit rating is AAA, as it has been for some
Which
time
we were
now,
celebrating.
which we celebrate and will, and we have great pride about that.
Yeah.
Their stance is that, well, if your credit is so good, then you should obtain a loan separate of us. But that means that we'd have to pay interest on the loan. And it doesn't make sense that we would be penalized.
So
Even though it's not our
It's-
fault.
it's not our
Correct.
fault. So
Which I
we're
brought up.
How
paying
much are we waiting?
How much are we waiting for?
half of the money.
Yeah, millions of dollars,
Tens
like
of
tens,
millions.
tens of millions of dollars,
No,
yeah.
I think it's significant.
So,
And it is.
Yeah, I was
and
going to
so-
say,
and
what are
even-
the numbers?
Yeah, so right now, we're waiting for the fall installment. So if we talk about property taxes, for our property taxes, we budget over $80 million, and let's say that it's about half of that, just for the purposes of this conversation. The split is a little bit different, where the fall amount would actually be a little bit bigger. So, yeah, about 50% of that.
I mean, I think it's important to be that clear, right? Because this money belongs to the citizens of Evanston,
Correct.
right?
That's right.
And they feel some sort of way about this high school. And to know that, that they're not taking care of the kids in this school, in this community, we got to be very vocal about this happening and the impact I mean, the fact that we're going to the bank,
Just
trying
make
to
ends
cover a
meet.
deficit
Yeah.
that they have created, and for whatever reason, been
Right.
comfortable creating it, needs to be broadcast.
Yeah. And, you know, as Dr. Campbell shared in the correspondence today, you know, we made it this far, and finally, when they sent out the bills on November 14th, it was like, okay,
Right.
I think we might be okay. And now the newest hurdle is that, yes, we are collecting the money, but we're not yet in a position to distribute it as we typically would. And we're hoping we'll be able to distribute it by Friday, but we're really not sure. So it's just like, you finally think that you've gotten to a point where it's going to be okay, and yet something else from Cook County.
So they said that they would possibly distribute it by Friday. That's where you
Possibly,
get that
yeah.
from. But it's certainly not
Guaranteed.
definitive language,
It is not,
no.
no.
Yeah. So there are some avenues that the board can take, and other school boards are considering. And, I mean, considering maybe even state legislation that at least causes Cook County to just notify us that we're not going to get any money. So there are things that are happening that I think the board can and should be speaking very loudly about, because this is not the first year.
Yeah,
Right, this is just as bad, it hasn't been this
it
bad.
hasn't been this
Right.
This is
bad.
the fourth out of 5 years.
4 out of 5 years.
4 out of the last 5 years.
But we've
They have-
never had to wait till
It has not
December.
been, actually, I would
Has it?
have to check that.
Okay.
It's typically due in December, but I think that this might be the latest that we're still wondering when we're going to get the cash. Like, usually we would know by now. And even that is pretty, I mean, the reference that I made today, I said, Marcus, we're scraping the bottom of the pot, you know, and there's not much more that we can do here without having to go for tax anticipation warrants potentially, if they don't come through. So, yeah,
Which hurts us financially,
Yeah.
absolutely,
by the way,
absolutely.
right? Here we are in no fault at all being spending our investments.
Spending our investments.
You know, losing interest, and could possibly have to issue tax anticipation warrants at no fault of our own because we have done the things that we needed to do.
Right,
And
right.
we can't get any cooperation from the county. As I said, we're not the only district in this situation. There are other districts spending down their fund balances as well.
Several of
and-
which neighboring that have also already had to have gone
Yes.
out for tax
Yeah,
anticipation.
there are
warrants.
other districts that have already issued tax anticipation
Yeah.
warrants.
I just wanted to commend Kendra and her team. I emailed her this morning because I couldn't remember how much cash on hand we keep for our, for this. And she let me know that we typically have between like 4 and 5 months of cash on hand. And I just want to commend you all for being so responsible with that type of savings just for when stuff like this happens. And I know you've probably exhausted most of that because it's been so many months and now we're doing, tapping into investments. But I just wanted to commend you all on creating that safety net for us.
Thank you so much. And I've said it before, my entire team, and then, of course, the larger team here at ETHS, we preach a great deal about the importance of having a healthy fund balance, right? About if we see our fund balance not going in the right direction, the need to have some mitigating efforts to make sure that we're maintaining at a level that's appropriate for these situations. And so sometimes that's challenging, especially with the landscape today, but we're definitely doing our best as an administration, of course, as a board and leadership team and everyone else here.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. Well, thank you for allowing us to get all this on record, because this is important for the community to know
For sure.
that we are really, we're struggling. Okay. Anything else?
Nope, sorry.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. All right. So we're at action items. The first action item is the adoption of the 2025 tax levy. Could I have a
So-
motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes?
Yes. The next item is the consent agenda, which consists of approval of minutes from November 10th, 2025, regular and closed session meeting, treasurer's report from September 2025, approval of bills, and personnel report.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The next item is old and new business. Do we have any old or new business? Your lights on?
All our lights are on.
Oh.
We just.
Oh. Sorry. I thought you guys had all this old and new business. Here we go, I put my pen down.
We want the meeting to last another 6 hours, Pat?
Okay. Closing of the board, any polling of closing of the board? Everybody have a great winter break. That's my comment. I think
Second
that we are, as Marcus said, it's amazing that we're ending 2025. So the next time we're together as a board will be a whole new year. Yes. Okay, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Is that not what I'm supposed to
That's
say?
it, yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's it. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. What time is it?
Almost a record.
Wow. This is early.